Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Veterans Expo. Coming from a military background, I faced a lot of challenges that veterans face as they're navigating their career journeys. And we bring this event for all the veterans to help them achieve their career potential. The purpose of this session, as well as No Worker Left Behind, is to make sure people are not alone in their career journeys. And we hope today you are able to connect with multiple service providers and multiple employers who are here to talk to you. I know we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty in terms of opening the networking room, and the technology team is actively working on it. So hopefully we will have the exhibitor and the employer room open very shortly. In the interim, I would say that the sessions that we have for today, we are very excited about those. We have Navy Federal coming and talking to you about financial wellness at 2:30 p.m. EST. And then we have IBM talking about all the skills around AI and what is possible. And then at 4:15, we have a fabulous speaker who will talk to you about resumes and LinkedIn and how do you translate your story from your career into a civilian life. So very excited about the programming today and also about the event. And we hope you can make the most of the day today. We would love to get feedback in any way, shape, or form. And our information is our email is info at No Worker Left Behind. And happy networking and happy connecting with everyone today. We will be starting our programming very shortly here on the same link that we have here in the next 20 minutes or so. So till then, see you. Hi, Jonathan. Welcome to this event. We cannot hear you, Jonathan. So if you and Jackie can unmute yourself.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, perfect.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yes, yes,
Excellent.
perfect. Very excited to have both of you on this event, and the floor is all yours. It would be really nice if you can give a quick introduction about yourself. We have 45 minutes for this session, including Q&A, and you can start with introductions and then get into the PowerPoint.
Perfect. Well, good morning. My name is Jonathan Page. We are from Navy Federal Credit Union. I'm joined by Jackie Lopez, who is our branch manager, and I am our financial presentation specialist. So I specialize in giving some financial education for nonprofit organizations and sharing within our communities. So I'll pass it off to Jackie to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacqueline. I go also by Jackie. I prefer Jackie. I am the branch manager for the Navy Federal branch office here in Ontario, California. So fortunately, it's not sunny today. It's actually raining. So I'm super excited to be here with everyone. I've been in the financial industry for about 21 years. I'm recently serving as the branch manager for Navy Federal within the last 5 months. Super excited to be here and to share the wealth of knowledge that we have for you today.
Amazing. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be sharing some education, financial health foundations. So we're going to be going through a lot of different topics today. So if you have any questions and things, go ahead and post them in chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end. That way we can answer any pressing question that you may have that will help you out in the future. So let's go ahead and get started. So as an overview, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about budgeting, we're going to be talking about saving, we're going to be talking about building credit, managing debt, as well as protecting yourself from fraud. So in terms of creating a budget, we want to think about are things like fixed versus variable expenses. So what those are can include things like housing, utilities, vehicle payments, insurance. I know we all pay insurance, right? And things that are variable can include things, but not completely limited to food, clothing, entertainment, and vehicle maintenance. Now, those are costs that could vary from dollar amounts or frequency depending on the month. And then fixed is everything you know that's going to hit every month, like rent, that is going to be the same every single month, so you know that that's automatically coming out. Then what we want to talk about are needs versus wants. What are those? Now, needs can include housing, because that's important, right? Next could be transportation, because we all need to, get from point A to point B. So transportation is very, very necessary. A need could be food. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have to eat every single day, multiple times a day, so that's very, very important. And then things like insurance, and that can be vehicle insurance, that could be car insurance. If you're an entertainer, that could be event insurance. So those are things that are going to be very important that are needs. Now, wants can include things like entertainment, and entertainment could be dining out perhaps, maybe going to a concert, maybe traveling and going on a road trip. And then you want to think about things like subscriptions. I'm sure everyone has a Netflix, they have a Hulu, they have a Prime account or something like that. Those are extra things that we add for our enjoyment purposes. And then we talk about things like vacations. We mentioned road trips. Maybe it's a family vacation. Maybe it's people flying in for a wedding or something like that, right? Some sort of special occasion. So identifying needs versus wants is important when it comes to the budgeting process. Now, on Navy Federal's website, as well as their mobile app, we have a section called Making Sense. And within that section, you're going to find things like what we're looking at today, which is our monthly budget worksheet. Now, that monthly budget worksheet will help put those things that we talked about previously, fixed versus variable, needs versus wants, and it allows you to put it in an area that is very visual for you. I don't know about you, but I am a very visual learner, so I like to write things down and kind of see it right in front of me. I think that's why I became a piano player, because everything is right under my hands there. So if you look at the chart that we see here, it's going to give you to the far left, you'll see expenses and income, and then categories within it. So you'll see savings, personal, auto, home. You can name those things however you like to put things within it that make sense for you. Then on the top, you'll see where it says month, and it says income 1, income 2. So if you're a multi-income household, you can put that income there. And then it starts breaking it down a little bit further. So you'll see that next section says budgeted amount. So this is what you tell yourself, this is what I have budgeted for these specific categories, these specific things within those categories. Now next to that is the actual amount. So you get to put what it actually costs, right? Because you won't know what it actually costs until it happens. So now you put that in that category. So now you see what you budgeted, what you actually spent, and then next is the difference. Did you pay less or did you pay more? And so once you pay less or more, then you can add some notes, which is the next section over. And within that notes section, you can start monitoring month over month what those differences are. If you're able to save anything, if you're not spending as much. If you allotted $500, but now you're only spending $150. You can put that in those notes. That way, it allows you to start heading into a direction of saving. And speaking of saving, this is where you kind of get into the financial wellness and growth section. So now we've identified needs versus wants, fixed versus variable expenses. We've identified using our budget worksheet exactly what we're saving or not saving, and where we can kind of peel the onion back a little bit and see where we can then put money away or reorganize our finances so that we're not spending as much and we're able to hit this next goal, which is savings. So now in the savings category, it kind of breaks it down into 4 distinct boxes. One box is the emergency fund. Next, we look at debt reduction. Then we look at goal-oriented savings. And then what we all strive to achieve at the very end is retirement. What does that nest egg look like for us? What does that end goal, that end picture look like based on our entire career and what we've worked up till that point? So let's break down emergency fund. So with emergency fund, what you want to do is you want to set a short-term goal, such as maybe $500 to $1,000, and you want to start growing that. Now, what you want to work towards is having 3 to 6 months of living expenses available for you to save for, right? That could be major home or car repairs, family emergency, natural disaster, maybe even a medical emergency. You want to make sure that you're prepared for those. That way, if anything happens in that regard, you're not going, oh man, what can I do to survive? Or having to go out and take a payday loan or having to borrow money that you don't necessarily need at that moment. Having that 3 to 6 month cushion will help you out tremendously. Next is debt reduction. So based on that budget worksheet, what can we do in terms of saving for debt reduction? So tips for reducing debt can include making larger monthly payments if we can. Use a pay raise or a bonus to reduce any debt that you have. Now, after debt is paid off, consider maybe putting newly available funds into a savings. Putting some of that extra funds away. I know, like, when we get extra money, our first thing is like, oh, what can I like spend that on, right? So now we have to train our mindset to think, okay, there's things that we need to treat ourselves because we work really hard, and we want to make sure that we, kind of reward ourselves for that work, but also consider, like, maybe we can put half of that away. That way, if we want to plan a trip for the following year, or if there's something that's a bigger goal, like, home ownership or having a down payment for a car or something like that, now you've started the process of doing that ahead of time. So by the time you get there, you're ready to go. The next is goal-oriented savings, which kind of ties into what we were just talking about, right? So what does that mean? That means saving for a specific short-term or long-term goal. Now, as the pictures kind of present here, you'll see home ownership is one of them. Vehicle ownership is another. I just bought a car not that long ago, and it was because of processes like these and questions that I asked with my colleagues and with Navy Federal that helped me put me in the right mindset to be able to afford the car that I ended up purchasing and be able to save and do the things that I wanted to do. Now, the next one looks like a graduation, right? Saving up maybe for a graduation present for your child, which is a huge accomplishment, that's a huge milestone. And then next is where we all like to be at some point or another, is right there on the beach, maybe sipping a Mai Tai or two or something like that, right? And a vacation. Now, before we get into saving strategies, do we have any questions about maybe perhaps any of the budget worksheets or anything about our fixed versus variable expenses or any other buckets that these savings goals might fall into? Feel free to put that in the chat if you're following along with us, or we can parking lot that question and we can revisit it at the end. All right, I see some things coming in, so we'll go ahead and keep this going here. So for saving strategies, what we want to do is a couple things. We want to create a separate account for specific goals. That may be a vacation savings, maybe it's an emergency savings, maybe it is a vehicle savings. So you want to specify those accounts so you know where your money is going and what you're saving for. Pay yourself first. What does that mean? Seems a little bit selfish, right? When you see it at first value. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is making sure that you're able to take any funds that you have and put it towards that savings goal for you. Put it towards that emergency fund for you, right? If that's $25 a month, if that's $50 a month, whatever is comfortable for you, make sure that you're able to pay yourself first. We want to make things automatic because every time you add something to your schedule, right? More than likely, if it's something that causes you to do an extra step, you may do it for a few weeks maybe, right? And then it may become a chore and you're more apt to not do it more consistently in the future. But if you can automate it, right, doing an automatic transfer from your checking to your savings or from your existing savings to your more specified goal savings, that'll make it much easier because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And then you want to look for opportunities to save. And that includes where you get a pay raise, like we talked about before. Maybe you paid off a loan, and now the money that you are allocating towards that loan or towards that credit card, you can now allocate towards your savings instead because that particular debt is paid off. And then any unexpected income, that could be from your pay raises, that could be from a bonus, that could be from a check that you received from your grandma because she loves you that much, right? So any unexpected income that you receive, you want to go ahead and put that away if you can. And now the last box is retirement savings. Now, in that retirement savings, you're going to hear a lot about things like compound interest. So basically, what we're getting at when it comes to retirement accounts is that you want to go ahead and start putting money away as soon as you can into something that yields higher dividends. That could be a CD. That could include things like a 401k plan if you have that with your employer. That could be a thrift savings plan if you're currently in the military. That could be any sort of higher interest yielding account like a money market savings that most financial institutions will have. Those are most common. And so those kind of accounts will have compound interest, which simply means interest that kind of builds upon itself. So for example, if you had an account that started with $100 and you had a certain interest rate that is allocated for that particular account, now at the end of the month, you're going to get something called a dividend, which is a credit that is awarded to you for housing that money inside of that account. So now what your balance is, instead of it being $100, maybe it's now $105. So now when you get into the following month, you're earning interest off of $105 as opposed to your original $100. So on and so forth. So over time, you build wealth through keeping that inside of that specific account. And then we have online and mobile banking. Why this is important is because it helps automate the processes for you. It helps keep it within the palm of your hand, because that way, when you keep it in the palm of your hand, you can always monitor, right? You can pay your bills through that mobile app. You can also deposit checks there, which then makes life easier as opposed to having to always go inside of a branch. You can transfer funds from there. So if you get any extra funds, or if you get a credit or a refund, maybe you took some pants back, maybe you took a jacket back, right? And you got a refund for that. Now you can take those extra funds, then you could transfer those out into some of your more specific goal-oriented savings accounts. And then from there, once you start getting an access of funds, now you can really take control of your assets. And now you can open up accounts that really gear towards whatever those goals are for your future. If that is, the retirement piece, you can open up those. If it is the money market savings, because you're looking maybe to save money for the future, maybe those goals, the vacation, the home ownership, the down payments for things, right? And so now what that bleeds into is credit. Now let's take a deep breath for a second, because I know we've just given you a lot of information. Before we deep dive into credit, remember that credit is kind of how the world functions. Everything functions off of credit. For example, if you want a house, credit. If you want to get an apartment, credit. If you want to get a cell phone, credit, because that dictates how much of a down payment you have to put down. Things like if you want to, again, go get a vehicle, that requires credit. So now we want to kind of break down what a credit score is. So what a credit score is, it comprises of a number. Now that number is derived from a lot of information that is reported on your behalf based on how you manage your current debt. Now there is a range for score, and it ranges from 300 to 850. 300 being in the red, 850 being in the green. So ideally, you'd like to be in the green. Now, these are all opportunities for growth. So even if your credit score is lower at the moment, there are tips and tools and things you can do to help build your credit. And so one of those is understanding what factors dictate the number that you receive from your credit score. Now, you can look at your credit score from things like FICO, or Vantage is another company that will monitor that information and give you a credit score. Navy Federal's mobile application uses Vantage 3.0 as their monitoring program. So the score you get is very similar to what you'll see in things like Credit Sesame or Credit Karma, which are a couple free apps that you can monitor. And even through Experian, they have an app where you have a free membership there as well, in which you can then monitor your score. Now, the factors that will give you the number within that score are as follows. So we have account owed, so that's the amount of debt that you have. That's huge, that's 30%. Then we have new credit, that's 10%. Any new credit that you apply for will show up there, and that affects your score about 10%. So not a huge amount, but it is important, right? So if you have a bunch of new credit that you haven't used, the idea is you want to manage that, not just accumulate it. And then if we go down the wheel there, you'll see length of credit history. This is big, right? Because they want to make sure that you can manage your debt over time. That's how you get your credit history number. That averages out to about 15% of your total score. Then down is credit mix. So what they mean by credit mix is going to be things like credit cards is part of it. Installment loans, which is any sort of loan out there, which is going to be personal loans, debt consolidation loans, mortgage. So any of those mix of those items is great reflection on your credit. And then the big one that I always stress to everyone that we have these presentations for is going to be payment history. So how accurate are you with your payments, right? So just to give you an idea of how important payment history is, if you miss one payment, it takes 12 payments to kind of wipe that one out. So one payment takes you a year, right? So that's why it's very important, because to a lender, when they take a snapshot and they run your credit for anything, they're going to look and see these things. What is the payment history? How do we know that once we give these funds, that you as the client will be able to pay that back on time and be reliable with those funds? Now, tips for building credit. So if your credit is not where you want it to be, where there's opportunity for growth, here's a couple ways that you can build your credit. You can pay all bills on time. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Pay everything on time and you're good to go. You can use credit responsibly over time, and you can keep credit card balances below their limit. So ideally, on your credit, you'd like to keep your credit card utilization below 30%. The most ideal is 10% or less, because you'll know anything above 30% can get out of hand really quickly. So you want to make sure that if you look at your credit report, that you can pull from things like myannualcreditreport.com, or you can even go to irs.gov and you can pull one free every year. That'll show you exactly where your credit report is looking right now, where your balances are, and where you need to improve, or the progress that you're making, more importantly. Now, in terms of credit card payoff, the reason why we want to keep it below that 30%, as you view on the charts here, right, is when you have higher balances and you're making minimum payments, you'll see that, like, in that first graph there, you'll see that most of the payment that you're making is going to interest and not a lot to principal, almost 50-50, right? And then next one over, you can make a slightly larger payment, right? The majority of it is now going to principal, a little bit is going to interest. And then once you pay it in full, everything is going to that principal and your overall balance lowers at that point. It's hard sometimes when you make minimum payments. Yes, it keeps it in good standing that you didn't miss a payment, but then we're talking about compound interest with credit cards as well. So you're kind of fighting some of the interest charges every month. So you may not see the kind of traction that you think your money should be doing. So the larger the amount that you can make, the better. Now, before we get into types of debt that Jackie's going to be kind of diving into further, again, what we talked about before, to kind of reiterate a lot of the tips and tools. One, it's identifying needs and wants. It's identifying what your fixed payments are versus your variable payments. Identifying and writing those things down on a budget worksheet. We're looking at what our savings goals are once we get to identifying what those savings or opportunities for savings are based on that budget worksheet. And then from there, we're going to decide where can we allocate that money. Is it going to be to an emergency fund? Is it going to be towards retirement? Is it going to be towards debt reduction? Or is it going to be towards some goal-oriented events that you have coming up in the short term and the long term? And then from there, identifying what things is going to be needing more attention to your credit, understanding what's within your credit score, understanding what is in your credit report, and then being able to affect those things based on some of the tips and tools we talked about, which is making sure that your credit card is in balance, right? And keeping it in a modest balance, something that you can keep control over, making sure you're making your payments on time, making sure that you monitor your account via any mobile app that you currently use, and making sure that we can automate those things to make your life easier. All right, Jackie.
All right, thank you, Jonathan, for all that insightful information. So the next part is more of my expertise as a branch manager. I love to go over managing debt and being able to help our members reduce that cost. So a couple of things that we can want to go over, like what is considered good debt versus bad debt. So good debt is more of those financial journey goals that you have, like buying a home, living in an apartment, or bills that are coming to kind of fulfill your needs versus your wants. Bad debt, honestly, there really isn't bad debt. It's just kind of like getting yourself a little bit into trouble with the extra spending, kind of looking at the extras, the wants versus the needs. Next slide, please, Jonathan. So managing debt is very essential to our financial journey, especially to try to help us get out of that debt. Couple of 3 takeaways I like to keep in mind when I'm talking to the member is really learn to borrow what you need. If you need to make an emergency purchase like tires or something like that, you only need what the cost of that is. Also, know how much you owe. Being able to assess that information via statement or online banking is a great tool to have you budget as you go. And looking back at that resource that Jonathan shared with us of doing the fundamentals where your income is going and allowing yourself to, do you have extra within your budget to pay this off? Send a little bit of extra money towards that. An emergency fund is being in place, allows any person really to kind of offset that unexpected expense. For instance, if you have car issues or if you have medical emergency, having that emergency fund will alleviate more making that purchase versus using a credit card or reaching out for a lender for loans. Next slide, please. So one of the key things I like to share with all of my members is really try to avoid delinquency. As Jonathan shared, that one late payment can take a few months before it can be dropped or overlooked. In the event that you're looking to do a loan, any recent delinquencies may hinder the outcome of that application. So we always want to be careful with that. A couple of tips I may share with you today is paying your bills on the due date. Having that automation, even if it pays the automatic minimum payment, that's going to really help a long way. Simply because then you know your payment is on time. It's going to go ahead and reduce additional fees that are unnecessary, but at the same time give you that structure. Having that structure of your payments coming out on a certain day would allow for those payments to take, that delinquency chance away, and it also kind of alleviates that pressure if you are, let's say, on vacation away or you're not able to get reception to make those payments. At least they're automatic. Minimums is something that is really up to you if you want to set a set standard, but at least paying the minimum will avoid any delinquency. Also, my favorite pro tip is always use online banking. If it's more conceivable not to do it automatic, but to jump onto the platform and make the payment, that's always a great tool set too if you want to be in charge of those payments. And of course, always pay as much as you can. Don't always go towards the minimum, but try to overreach yourself when possible, as long as your budget allows that. Next slide, please. So tackling your debt, kind of the best practice I have for our members and any consumer about debt is that if you want to make an impact about how to relieve yourself from debt, couple of things that I see is like the snowball effect. So if you're paying small balances like your minimum, you're impacting that debt very slowly. So it's like throwing it as you can. But if you want to really make that impact to reduce your debt, paying the highest interest rate first is going to really help, because then less of your payment is going to go into that interest. So paying those top interest card is always the best. And then kind of giving that effect where the debt starts going downward. Next slide, please. So options for managing debt. One thing I always walk away with, or to tell our members, is if there is a situation that's hindering you from making payments, please never hesitate to reach out to the lender and share your story. Calling your creditors, have them understand what your situation will be, because you'll be surprised that nowadays we have programs that may help. For instance, we had a government shutdown and some of our members were impacted. So what we do as a lender, when our members reach out, share with us their story, we try to see how we can alleviate their situation. It's on a case-by-case basis. However, any creditor, lender, debt consolidator, they will look at the holistic financial journey and see what you can do. But another option for managing your debt is also if you find opportunities where you can transfer the debt to another lender that might charge you less interest. You won't find that many zero balance credit cards, but you might have lenders that have lower rates or even use collateral loans to kind of help you reduce that. Next slide, please. One of the things we kind of take away from lending is try to avoid predatory lending, meaning those fast, quick turnaround loans, because those can get you into trouble, especially if we don't read the terms and conditions in the fine print. Next slide, please. So protecting you from fraud. This is one of the most impactful topics I like to reach out to the members and talk about. Specifically because fraud is always in the high. We're going into the holiday season, so we just want everybody to use caution. We have great resources on our website that gives you the opportunity to learn what kind of scams out there, but I'll briefly share with you what fraud may look like. Next slide. So one of the things we tell our members to use caution is phishing schemes. If it sounds too good to be true, it's not true. So make sure you don't fall between those situations where you think you're going to give you a bonus check just because if you fill this out. Predators out there are just trying to get access to your information. The more they acquire, they're able to take away and even lock you out of your system. Next slide. One of the things we're seeing a really high influx in the financial industry is phone scams. Phone scams are always fraudsters that are trying to pretend they're a financial institutional entity. If your bank is calling, trust me, you could hang up and call them back and actually save yourself from being scammed over the phone. With AI and technology, a lot of these items are harder to spot. So one of the best practices I take away is if they really want to get in contact, like if the real financial institution wants to get in contact with you, they will always allow you to hang up, call them directly, and then kind of go through their verification. They will never ask for codes. They would never ask for you to share more information than you have to because the financial institution already has certain things in place. For added protected, I would always try to see if you can add a code word, or if they do voice recognition, try to sign up for that. That would alleviate some of these phone scams that we're seeing in the financial institution. Next slide, please. So identity theft is one of those really big topics in fraud, so we just want you to be careful when it comes to sharing your information and safeguarding your documents. We always recommend using strong passwords and monitor your account, and at least review your credit report at least once a week. Next slide, please. I mean, not once a year, I apologize. Next slide. Always never provide information. So if you're speaking to a financial institution, like I said, they have the information, they normally just want a verified contact. So that kind of helps out a little bit. If they're asking like Social Security, driver's license number, more details, go ahead and hang up and just call them directly when you have those suspicions or gut feelings. So this may not be an authentic call. Next slide. Card security, always be mindful of your surroundings, especially nowadays we have readers that can read your debit card, your credit card. I always recommend look at your surroundings before you put in your card in a slot holder. Double check that it's not compromised. You are always welcome as a consumer to look at the machines, and if that looks like, you know, that it's been tampered with, do not insert your card. Just go ahead and report that to your institution so that way they can be aware of that. Next slide, please. Fraud response. So one of the things I always like to share is fraud can happen quickly. They can deplete your account, they can start stealing your identity, but the recovery of that is really hard. So we always recommend to our members to always use caution. Always be able to monitor what you can do with your credit report, what's happening. If you know that you didn't apply for a car loan, go ahead and call that lender right away. Also, as a consumer, you have the right to add fraud alerts. So if something does happen to you, you can put restrictions where if credit needs to be run, they need to call a specific phone number, or you need to provide that code that allows you that lender to review it. And always remember, financial theft is a big situation, so filing police reports will always also defend you when it comes to those situations for fraud. Next slide. So what all this encompasses is that our journey to your financial journey is we want you to go from attaining your first job, hitting your financial goals. So in the end, we want to look at a happy retirement. But as we retire, we also want to be able to take measures, safety measures, to make sure that what we work for doesn't get taken away quickly. So this is kind of like the journey map that all trusted advisors use to kind of help you, guide you to those endeavors, and hopefully achieving it within your timeline. Next slide, please. And then I just want to reiterate, we do have some financial education hubs about making sense that kind of goes over what Jonathan and I went over. Great articles, great flashcards to kind of review what that may look like. The articles really elaborate more on each topic, so if you want to research a little bit more, you're able to do so. Also, there's a QR code for your reference, but hopefully you take advantage of these tools. If you have another financial institution, they might have also theirs. So the more information, the more resources is always a great way to protect ourselves. Next slide, please. So I just want to end our presentation with just a reiteration. The mission is our members. It's you. Anytime that you have any questions, we are here as your financial institution, and we were happy to kind of review more information and giving you this opportunity to do a question and answer.
Hi, Jackie. And thank you so much, Jackie and Jonathan, for a really great presentation. I learned so much from this presentation myself about financial wellness and fraud. There is a question that we had received from some of the people here was typically veterans face gaps in credit history due to deployments, overseas service, things like that. And what are the most effective ways to rebuild or establish credit quickly without falling into the high-risk trap?
So I'll go ahead and take that. So one thing that you can do, especially if there's gaps in employment or if you're kind of have been deployed abroad, we have secured products. We have our secured credit card, which allows you to, once you maybe transition from military life back to civilian life, or that you have some time to kind of monitor to help you kind of rebuild credit that way. It allows you to do so in a safe and reliable manner without having a lot of risk to your already existing credit score. We have it on the loan side as well, which is our secured pledge loan. So you have a secured product that's based off of your own funds on the loan side, and one that's based on the credit card side as well. Those are two really great tools. Also having, those that can monitor your credit while you're abroad as well. So even if you are abroad, having a spouse on maybe a card or perhaps having a joint owner like a parent kind of monitor those things while you're away are a couple great ways that you can then help keep your credit intact while you are doing important work overseas and abroad.
Thank you. That is definitely helpful and good to hear about some of these products that you guys have. Another question that we had was, so many financial freedom plans assume stable income. And we realized that with the world changing towards gig and people having disability benefits or inconsistent employment, how do you advise the veterans navigating these issues?
Can I have you repeat the question?
Yes.
I know it was a little bit long.
Yes. So a lot of people are right now in inconsistent employment, whether it's gig work or disability benefits and things like that. And a lot of the financial freedom plans assume stable income. So what are the kind of things that are, if people don't have stable income, like what are the kind of plans that they can have?
To be very transparent with you, couple of things. Each financial institution has their guidelines. So we can't really reiterate what that may look like for other institutions. But for us, we always kind of recommend coming in with that information, sharing your whole financial story, and see what is it that we can do to help. Unfortunately, it's not a black and white answer for me to be like, these are the proper steps. There's a lot of consideration nowadays. Post-COVID has allowed the industry to kind of review the holistic photo of everything and kind of make more like suggestive guidelines of how to approach certain things. We do have things that can be seen as protected funds, protected income, but we would really have to look at that financial picture on a case-by-case basis in order for us to really respond to that. It is a little bit outside of my scope to really provide a more clearer answer, and I do apologize about that, but I just do want to be transparent that, each institution might have different guidelines and kind of reaching out to them, and this is where that open communication with the lender would come into play for them.
That definitely makes sense. So Jackie, last question before you guys wind up. this is top of mind for me. Just curious, as a branch manager, what is the most common concern or question that you see people come up with that maybe if people had known better, they wouldn't have gotten into that trap or issue, just to address for the audience broadly.
Yes, thank you for that question. So kind of the thing that we see more nowadays is having that financial education, really understanding what that financial journey map looks like. So a lot of our members will really give us feedback about, I wish I would have known this back in high school, that the first step to really monitoring your financial wellness is to set up a budget. Set up automation that would allow this to happen no matter what. And like Jonathan had shared, when we have instances we have additional income or that grandma's check for Christmas, really saving it and putting it away for emergency funds. Having those fundamentals set at an early stage in life allows us to really hone into our financial skills to build on that. And then, of course, using your trusted advisor, your institution, your banking institution to really guide you. Of course, you don't always have to go with the first opinion, first option. I always like looking at seconds, just like a medical professional, kind of get that second opinion and kind of really reevaluating each journey step that you take. The more you do that, that really allows you to build that financial strength, those really great habits as we go into different economical times or even our career, to build on those things. So a lot of it is just really honing down the fundamentals, being able to create those habits early on, but it's never too late. So if you find yourself in the need, setting a plan really helps, and setting those specific short-term, long-term goals and working with an individual that's going to guide you with that. And that could be a trusted advisor. It could be even a CPA or a financial advisor. It's really up to you what you would like, and kind of set that roadmap. Once that roadmap is set, it's more attainable, more achievable. Having that eyes on it, like using your online banking, your statements, looking at it, and kind of like reassessing all the time. And of course, we understand emergencies will happen. So having that set up, but if you don't, that's okay. You know, we're not perfect to get all those fundamentals in right away. But reach out to your banking institution, your trusted advisor, and kind of really like look at options, weigh them, and say, does this really make sense for me? Is this a want or a need? And then kind of move forward in that direction. So it's okay. Like I said, it's never too late. You know, I myself use a budget till this day. It just allows me to really assess and adjust. And then if I have extra, then I will be paying off the higher interest and moving forward that way to have that security down the road.
Thank you so much. I do think those are really important points. And if we get additional questions from the audience, maybe I can just send them over to both of you over an email, and we can try and get back to the audience in that respect.
Absolutely. We look forward to answering all of those questions, both Jackie and myself. Jackie has a wealth of knowledge that she can pull from, and then as well as I do, and between the two of us, we can definitely be able to answer those questions as they come in.
Perfect. Thank you both for joining us, and we look forward to continuously working with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Thank you everyone for watching this amazing session on financial wellness. We are going to, in the next 1 minute, kick off with the session with IBM on AI preparedness and all that's happening in the world of work. And with that, I would love to welcome the IBM team if they can switch on their cameras. And we will start with introductions very quickly. Hi, Emil.
Hello, Diksha. Thank you so much for inviting us.
we are very excited to have you guys take us through the AI journey and hopefully start upskilling us on AI. And I know we have 1 more minute remaining on the session. So as soon as it's the start time, we would love for you to introduce yourself and then would love to learn more. I'm all excited with my laptop here to get started on this session.
Great, thank you.
So Emil, I'm
Thank you,
going to
Jen and
switch
Neil. I was just letting you know, I did just ping Matthew to join, so he should be on in the next couple minutes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Kiki. So Emil, I'm going to switch off my camera, so it's all yours at this point in time, and you can start with your presentation.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen first. Diksha, since you are here, if you can just confirm that you can see what I am sharing, please.
Emil, we don't see anything yet.
Okay, can you see it now?
There we go. Looks beautiful.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before we dive in, let me just say how honored, genuinely honored I am to be here today in a room. I mean, I know it's a virtual room, but in a room full of people who have served this country with pride, honor, and courage. Honestly, I think after this call, I'm going to have to call my parents and tell them that their son just had the privilege of talking with some real life heroes. So let's get started and make this session as impactful as you all deserve. We are from IBM, more specifically IBM, the Department of Corporate Social Responsibility. At IBM, we combine our talent, technology, and network of partners to drive positive change at scale. Education and skilling program are central to our corporate social responsibility mission, helping close the opportunity gap. We've committed to tech education for nearly a century, from 1940 years before I was born, of course, by working with Columbia University to today AI training. Our goal is to foster innovation and expand opportunity in communities all around the world. Today, we are talking about AI. And when it comes to AI, skills are the currency of the AI economy. In education, our education system must keep pace with evolving job demands. To meet these needs, at IBM SkillsBuild, we collaborate with schools, nonprofit, government, and employer to align learning with workforce needs. Our approach includes global and regional partnership, digital credential, and role-aligned learning. We prioritize broad access from high school students and university learners to mid-careers learners. These efforts are essential to building a more future-ready workforce. So in 2021, IBM committed to skill 30 million people globally by 2030, including 2 million in AI by 2026, so next year. So far, we've reached over 16 million learners globally and trained approximately 1.1 in AI specifically. How do we do that? We do it through a program called IBM SkillsBuild. It's a free technology education program offering learners free access to over 1,000 courses on technology and workplace skills such as AI, cybersecurity, cloud, and much more. So we serve high school students, university students, adult learners, and today, veterans. So you will learn IBM branded digital credential in AI, cloud, cybersecurity, and you will be able to get coaching from IBM volunteers like today, and much more. Those certificates are recognized by employers and help open doors to tech career. So how do we start? I know I've talked a lot, but again, today this session is meant to be very interactive. So if you I'm sure you are all on your computer now. If you're on a computer and you have a phone in your hands, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, or if you prefer, you can just type this link in your browser, ibm.biz/bdbbld. And then when you do that, I'm going to do a demonstration on our Skills Build platform. So first, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute and then share it again. Give me just 10 seconds. Switching screen, and then now I believe I'm sharing my screen again one more time, and I believe you all can see my Chrome account, my Chrome page. So I've put in the search bar the address ibm.biz/bdbbld. Again, I really encourage you to use the QR code and the link that I have in the chat because and thank you very much, Kiki, for pasting that in the chat. Please do not go to skillsbuild.org, use this specific link. Once you use this specific link, you will be redirected to the page that I'm going to show you because together we are going to do a micro learning together. So we are going to take a short 15-minute course together. So when you go onto the link, it's going to send you to this page. Hi there, how would you like to log into IBM Skills Builds? If you do not have an account with us, your first step is to click on sign up right here. And then the easiest way to start to sign up on our platform is to use Google or your Gmail account. I believe we all have a Gmail account. This is the quickest way to sign up. So once you click on sign up with Google/Gmail.
And Emil, do you mind popping that link into the chat? The one I clicked or the one I put into the chat wasn't working. I might have copied it wrong.
Okay, let me try one more time to copy the link in the chat again. Is it working? Oh, 1 second. This one should be working now. If it doesn't work, I can provide you with another link, which is a little bit longer, but it's still the same link that I've created. And I'm pasting this link again in the chat. This is the same link. I've just not shortened that one. And it should work now. Okay. So with that link, you just have to click on the link and you'll be redirected to the registration page. Once you are on the registration page, you will see this page. Let's set up your profile. And then you will fill out your basic information. So your first name, your last name. In this specific case, I'm using the name of the organization, No Worker Left Behind, as a family name. This is not my family name, of course. The most important part, when you come here, I can say that I'm in Massachusetts. For example, your sponsoring organization, this is No Worker Left Behind, because that specific link has been customized for the organization. So if you are on this specific page and you do not see No Worker Left Behind, please go back to the chat and click on the link again. You should be able to see it. If you already have an account with IBM Skills Build, it's going to send you to a different page. So additional information, let's just say we are trying to enhance current career, and yes, IBM can send an email. And then we will check those two boxes to accept our terms and condition. So again, the basic information, first name, last name, the location, the sponsoring organization, No Worker Left Behind, and then you check those two boxes and you can now press on submit and your registration is done. So the system is going to take a few seconds. As you can see, success, your account is created and you do not have to do anything. You just have to stay on the page and boom, now you have access to our platform. And I know a lot of you are veterans, so you've been working a lot on the field, but you are coming back to work as some of work are going to work as civilian. And for that, you have to learn how to craft your professional image online. Everything is online now, and your online presence has become your first impression. So this small micro learning of 20 minutes, we'll finish it in 5 minutes because this is going to be very quick before the actual workshop. So when you come onto this page, you click on go to activity. Once you click on go to activity, you are going to go to a new page. And then on this page, you either click on start or you click right here. It's the same thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click here. And I will have access to the main page, crafting your professional image online. So once you are here, you just have to click on the arrow and you have access to the page. So crafting your professional image online. What's the first thing you do when you hear about someone you don't know? That's right, you look them up online. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of you have already typed my name onto Google to make sure that I am who I am. So yes, I am actually who I am if you look me up right now on LinkedIn or on Google. So your online presence is often the first impression you give to someone. Once you're on this page, once you finish reading, you click on next. And then understanding your digital footprint here, the course is talking about your digital footprint, the traces that you are leaving behind as you interact online. So we are talking about personal website and portfolio if you do have one. If you don't have one, your online interaction, whether it's a comment, a review, or a conversation where you participated online. And most importantly, your social media account. We all have at least one social media account now to be connected with our family. So again, this is your digital footprint. And then we have an optional reflection activity. Search for your name online. What do you see when you take a moment to Google yourself? If I have to Google myself very quickly and I type my own name, you can see the first thing that appear is my LinkedIn page and all the other things I have done when I was still a student in New York City. So what do you find? Are there any picture or post or website related to you? There is what shows up what you want people to see? A little bit, yes. And is there anything you might want to change or clean up? I don't really think so. Also, I can click on next and go to the other one, engaging with professional network. The premier platform for professional is LinkedIn. We all have a LinkedIn account. If you do not have a LinkedIn account, please make sure to create one today after this call. Is really important to be able to network with other people. And then a few details about LinkedIn, a few details about industry-specific online community and professional association and group. Tips for networking online, you have a few tips. The first one, connect with peer and mentor. Number two, engage actively by commenting and sharing content. And most importantly, stay professional. So we go to the social media best practice. The social media presence play a key role in shaping how other people perceives you. It's very important to have a positive image, especially in this day and age. A few best practice, one, manage your privacy setting. When we talk about Facebook and Instagram, you have the ability to protect your personal information. But on LinkedIn, you want to have a public profile so that recruiters or people who want to connect with you at a professional level know who you are. Pick a professional picture, a nice picture, always a nice and smiling picture, and create a cohesive brand across platform. Positive content creation, what you share online plays a significant role in shaping how others perceive you. So remember to share your achievement. You are a service member, or you are a service member. You serve this country with pride. It's really important to be able to share that online. This is not your community service if you have done community service, and your hobbies and interests. And then I'm continuing to the next. The most important part here, using AI tools for online content creation. Artificial intelligence tool like ChatGPT, and I'm sure you've all heard of ChatGPT, can help you create professional content quickly and easily. At IBM, we have a tool that we call Watson X. It's an internal tool that we use for AI, but again, any tool, it's also free. So you can just go type IBM Watson X and you will have access to it. But for the purpose of this course, we are just going to go with ChatGPT. So with AI tool like ChatGPT, you can create and craft clear and concise bio that highlight your achievement. It's really important that you tell the tool you first give the information about yourself, about the tool. Otherwise, the tool will have to create an imaginary persona, which is actually not you. So be sure to personalize it and inject your own voice and tone to make it feel authentic. And then you can also use ChatGPT to write a resume and cover letter. And finally, you can use it for social media posts. I've read a recent article that said that a lot of content right now is being written by AI. So again, please use it proficiently. So best practice for LinkedIn, a strong LinkedIn profile is essential for showcasing your professional brand. When you go onto LinkedIn, we have a sample of a page here. The first thing is what your profile picture. You can see here a high quality professional headshot. Ensure your face is clearly visible. And if you go on my LinkedIn page, you will see my face is very bright and shiny. Your headline, who are you? What are you doing? I am a learning experience designer at IBM, and you will see it on my LinkedIn page as well. And then educational licenses, you will see where I've been to school, the volunteer work that I have done, and the few licenses that I have. We continue when we have the feature, 2-3 feature. You can also include your resume, your portfolio work, really important, and your website if you do have one. Those features are really important to showcase who you are. And about yourself, try to keep about yourself to 100 or 200 words at most. So include your job title, your years of experience, education, your value proposition. You've been a service member. You have a lot of value proposition and skills and accomplishments that you should be proud of. And then finally, you talk about your experience. You add your experience, your skills, and other accomplishments. So it's very important to build a wide web of connection on LinkedIn. In order to do that, you just have to personalize your connection, engage with content, and share your expertise. Most importantly, follow up and stay in touch. We are all human. We need a community to survive. So pop quiz, I know I've been going really, really fast, but again, my colleague is already here, so I don't want to take too much of his time. So the first question is, which of the following is not a recommended strategy for building a professional online image? If we have to do like Jeopardy, let's go 1, 2. Of course, it's post controversial content to spark conversation and engagements. This is the right answer for the people who guess correctly. Question number 2, what's one key benefit of having a strong digital footprint? It guarantees you will get a job interview? Maybe. It can help you shape how future employers and mentors view you? Yeah, maybe. It automatically removes any content that might appear online, or it allows you to control all information about what you shared on the internet. So drum roll, I believe the answer is this. It can help you shape how future employers and mentors view you. And final question, how can AI tools like ChatGPT help you manage your digital footprint? Let's go 3, 2. AI tools can help you craft professional bios, social media posts, and cover letter that align with your personal brand. So this is correct. As you can see, it's a very short micro learning. It's short and sweet, but those tips are really, really helpful. I've used it as well. My LinkedIn profile was not like that a few months ago. So after taking the course, you can see that my LinkedIn profile is very great. So thank you so much. I'm going to, and then when you finish the course, we have much more courses. This was just a small course, but you have digital credential, you have in-depth courses on AI, cybersecurity and cloud that you can take to increase your skills. And when you finish, you just have to click on exit the course and you are back to the main page. So thank you so much for listening to me. I'm going to go over and pass it to my colleague, Matthew.
Thanks, Emil. And hope everyone's having a good day. Happy belated Veterans Day. Thank you all for your service. I'm excited to be here. My name is Matthew Fernbach. I am the head of AI product and strategy for corporate development at IBM. So I'm helping to transform our M&A process with AI. And maybe Diksha, I don't know if is there a way to either submit answers in the chat? There's a few perspective interactive parts of this. So I was just wondering if there's any ability to either get someone's answers or get someone's ideas in the chat or anything like that.
So Matthew, this is streaming live on YouTube as well. We'll monitor both YouTube as well as the channel on the website and see if we can get some thoughts for you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so just opening up to start, I know Emil did a great job talking about the skills. I would love to just get a sense of if you could either put comments in the chat or on the YouTube channel. You know, when you hear about AI, you know, what are the types of things that you think of? And I'll give you just a few seconds to submit that. And maybe Diksha, if you see any coming in, if you could relay them over, that'd be helpful.
Matthew, there is a little bit of delay in terms of the chat on YouTube because it takes at least 30 seconds behind after you ask the question. So might not be a very interactive session. We might want to flip it to talk about the key takeaways for the group. And I'm monitoring the YouTube channel. So if there are questions, I might interrupt you or we'll hold them for the very end.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So if you could, you know, I can get started. I'm happy to share my screen. As we're going through this, if you want to just put in what you think of when you hear of AI, and also, you know, what do you want to get out of this session? You know, if there are any key topics that you want to focus on, that would be, you know, really, really great, because then I could tailor the message a little bit to what you're looking for. But either way, in this session, we're going to be covering a few different things. One is just some of the foundational knowledge around AI, what it is and what it isn't, how it shows up in everyday life, the evolution of AI over time. And I think now we're sort of entering, you know, a next phase of AI. Key terminologies and foundations having to do with skills and roles, like what are the skills and roles that we see today? Where do we see that heading in the future? And then simple steps for you to get started on your journey. So just to kick off on like what AI is, essentially, AI is the ability for machines or artificial intelligence models to be able to predict an outcome based on historical data, probabilities, etc. So it's to predict an unknown, oftentimes based on a set of known data. And these tasks include learning from data, recognizing images, understanding language. You're probably familiar with the large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini, and maybe some others where you're able to interact with the you know, large language model, and it's able to leverage all the data that it has in its training set to be able to make a prediction on, you know, what are the best responses for you. And it's becoming, as you know, more and more pervasive across so many different industries like healthcare, finance, education, entertainment, technology. Really, it's pervasive throughout, you know, the entire world right now. And as I was mentioning, just to kick off, a lot of the things that you'll see that are AI are typically systems that are used that predict an outcome based on underlying data, you know, ranging from simple to complex algorithms. And some simple, you know, use case and tools were some of that I've spoken about. Some of these on the right that are not AI are a little bit more, you know, rule-based. So for example, a spell checker is just simply doing a rule to check if that word exists in a dictionary, and if it's not, it's underlining that as something that's wrong. A more you know, robust AI system is using a model or algorithm to predict an outcome based on the underlying data. There's always a fun interactive session here to start. And I know that you can't submit the answers, but it'd be fun even just to play at home, maybe in the room if you want to do comment on the YouTube channel A or B, just for the purposes of demonstrating how powerful AI is today. And also just to do a fun session to kick us off. There are 4 image sets. One is AI generated and the other is a real image. And in this session, even on your own, I'd like you to just try to determine which one is AI generated and which one is not. So in this first one, we have 2 types of frogs. If you want to just either comment in the YouTube or even in your own head, let us know which one you think is AI generated, image A or image B. I'll just do a few seconds and then I'll give the answer.
Matthew, we're getting the image B here as AI generated.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. Actually, in this one, AI is generated image A. And the way that you could tell in this particular image, although as AI, like these are old images as well, as AI has gotten more advanced, it's harder and harder to spot. But here you can see the differentiator is simple round spots versus complex patterns. But we're even seeing that become more and more blurred as we go on. Looking at the second image, which one is AI, image A or image B?
Image B is AI.
Okay. Yeah, in this one, you can see some of the fingers and the hands are misplaced. Oftentimes in early AI systems, that was a signal that it was generated by AI. Looking into this next image, any differentiator, image A or image B?
So the answer I'm getting on YouTube is image A. I'm not sure if that was for the previous one or B. I don't know. There is a little bit of a lag.
No,
What I'm
all
seeing
good.
on you.
All good. And I think the ones that are coming in later are the ones that are correct because, you can see more of a simple shuttle, more of a detailed shuttle. This one's a little bit more AI generated. And then I think maybe 1 or 2 more just to get the juices flowing, getting people engaged. Image A or image B here. And
I still have the shuttle responses
no
right now
worries.
on my YouTube.
No worries. If it's coming in, it's all right. So in this one of the ways that you can tell, and maybe still in some video AI generators, you can tell that some of the words that you'll see might be illegible or jumbled. This is something that AI had struggled with early on, where this one has a little bit more legible text, especially when you're prompting an AI. Sometimes they'll blur letters and things like that, and it still happens from time to time. And then last one, which one is AI, image A or image B?
I think on YouTube people did get the earlier one right
Nice.
with the fake words.
Nice. That's great. All right, and hopefully they have some time to give answers for this one. This one is actually a little bit of a trick. They're actually both AI because this is a famous basketball player for those in the audience that are familiar, named Allen Iverson, and his nickname was AI. So this was more of a joke to just keep us going along. I think today we're going to be focusing more from here on out on what are the different evolutions of AI, what are the skills and jobs and roles, and some of the foundational key concepts as we go forward. And then Dishal, I might have a few, more interactive portion where I think the YouTube channel, even with the delay, would be a great place to put that in.
Absolutely. And this is getting scary. It's
Yeah,
getting very close to real.
exactly. And the reason I show this exercise, one, is because it's a fun, interactive exercise with the audience, but at the same time, it's, keys on a key skill and role that is becoming more and more prevalent, where AI is getting harder to spot what is and what isn't AI. Like even that exercise, I believe, was from a year or more ago. So if I did the same exercise with updated images today, it might be near impossible to tell. And one of the key skills and concepts that are coming out of this is AI ethics, data privacy, explainability, and trust are becoming more and more foundational to any successful AI professional or AI system. You have to be able to register authenticity, but also whenever you're predicting something with an AI model, there's a lot of skepticism and questions about what's going on underneath the hood. And so there are some skills that are related to just explainability and trust that we'll talk about as we go on. That is increasingly going to become more important as we think about building responsible AI for the future. To set the stage a little bit, talking a little bit just about, and I'll keep this briefly, but AI has been evolving over time. It's not necessarily a new concept. I think what's new is this, when ChatGPT came on the scene a few years ago with this concept of really good generative AI models that could almost mimic human language. But the first tests around, can an AI system almost act like a human evolved during even as early as the 1950s with the Turing tests, where, Alan Turing would have these responses to a prompt, and you would have to try to differentiate, is this a human response or is it AI response? And that became known as the Turing tests. There at 1956, there was this Dartmouth conference where a lot of the main AI and intellectual leaders in the world came together. I think they coined the term artificial intelligence there. There was a lot of excitement about the potential of AI that led to an AI winter, which led to a little bit of disappointment in the actual outcomes of AI because we saw maybe compute was not as up to speed. Some of the use cases weren't as obvious. So the hype didn't lead up to the expectations. And I feel like even we got a little bit of a sense of that even recently, where we're seeing reports from like MIT or other studies saying, even with the new Gen AI wave, that lots of enterprise pilots are failing. People are not getting the use out of AI as they were thinking about. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in AI going forward. And then there's the birth of machine learning and deep learning. I'll talk about the definitions of some of these concepts, but maybe if you could put in the chat, like, are there any seminal moments about AI that you can remember in your lifetime where you were either like really impressed about an AI accomplishment or you saw it in the news or on TV or something like that? I think there are a few throughout history that stand out, but feel free to use the YouTube comments to, say like, oh, here's a moment that was like woke me up that AI was really impactful or something that I saw somewhere noticeable.
I think, Matthew, for me, there were two that kind of stand out is the Jeopardy example. That was a big one, I think. And then I also think, kind of the release of generative AI for the public several years ago. I think that really transformed the way in which we talk about AI and how we use it in our everyday world, because I think before that we were using it, but we didn't necessarily know we were using it.
That's a great point and also a great segue. Andisha, I don't know if there's anything in the
Yes,
channel.
yes. So somebody's written AI and research analysis.
Okay.
That was a big one for them. And I would say for me, it's the fake videos. When I started looking at those and don't know which ones are real, which ones are not.
Yeah, those are all over the place, and especially, prevalent during, political seasons and things like that. That becomes really, really important. So yeah, thank you for all your answers. The AI in research analysis we can talk about a little bit too. And I think Kiki, to your point, that segues nicely, mostly because we're coming from IBM. It's so rooted in our history, but also this was something that was really impressive at the time as well. So IBM had a product called Watson, and it participated on Jeopardy, where it went against all of the, and a lot of you may know this, but it went against the former champions of Jeopardy and really did a great job of blowing them out of the water in a lot of cases and doing extremely well in this competition, where this was sort of the first instance of, or one of the first instances on such a nationally publicized event where artificial intelligence was competing with humans at things that previously they thought that a computer couldn't do, which is, very quickly understand questions, reason, find the data, and act upon it. Almost more impressive than that was my own stint against Watson, where this is in IBM research, where a few years back at this point, I was actually able to sort of recreate that picture itself. I think some other moments that come to mind, I think the advent of ChatGPT was huge. It democratized AI a ton to be able to interact with it so easily on your phone. The others that come to mind is IBM's Deep Blue, which was the chess AI that competed, I think, against Garry Kasparov or some of the chess champions. Others are like AlphaGo, where there was a computer, that played in this Chinese game called Go. That was a game that people, really thought would never be, mastered. And they actually did a move. I forget which move it was. It might have been 17 or something like that, where no human had ever even thought of doing that move, and they thought it was a mistake, but it ended up being, a move that ended up changing the course of the game and really changing how people think about AI. Okay. So now going into a few questions, and this one you could also put in the comments as well. Like, I think before we even talk about the skills and what's needed, I always like to start with, we're doing a lot of work in IBM and even in my role to build helpful AI and AI that's actually used to solve a problem. And I know with all of you people who are very mission oriented, likely at the front, at the core, there's so many instances today where people are trying to throw AI onto a problem that doesn't necessarily need AI, almost like an AI hammer looking for a nail. So, I think this will align with this group particularly because, you're also focused on how can we continue to make things better and help people and using AI as a tool. So I don't know if there's anything in the comments or chat, if there's any first steps to successfully building helpful AI, but then I'll go through my framework. Okay. DJ, if there is any, feel free to relay over, but I'll just get
So,
started.
so what I am seeing, I think it's maybe the answer for the last question where people are still writing AI for coding and other things where they see AI increasingly impacting their lives.
Cool.
And as I think about this question, the first step to successfully building helpful AI, I think is really understanding how it works and also thinking of real use cases where it can help. Somebody's just written accomplishing administrative task.
Okay. Nice. That's a very prominent use case to fill AI, where the problem is like, we have these administrative tasks that typically are either rules-based or very data-oriented. So that's the problem at hand. And the AI is used to solve a problem. So I love how you're thinking about it like that. How it works and real use cases. I think those are 100% critical parts of this. And I'll show you where that fits in. I think that comes a little bit later, but my, first thought here is getting started on your journey to build helpful AI. Number one is always starting with, the people. So with the idea that AI is a tool that solves problems, it's first, understanding who are the people associated with that problem, right? Like, what are they doing today? What do they care about? What are their goals? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to build a tool to help someone do something better, like an administrative AI tool is helping somebody, schedule something better or clear their calendar. But that person cares about an organized schedule or getting to places on time. And their problem is they may not have time to organize their life. that leads to the second point, which is problems. What are the problems that these people are facing? What are the challenges? What's preventing them from achieving their goals today? The third is the process. What is the current process that they're doing today? Like, what are the steps by steps do they take? What tools are they using? And not only what is their process today, but what does their ideal process look like? If you can outline a differentiator between what you're doing today and what they would want to do, you can identify if the solution then becomes AI rather than the other way around, where you start with like, I want to build AI, where can I apply it? Then is data. Do we actually have the data to make this unique and successful? What does it look like and where does it live? And then lastly is sort of like the how it works, right? Once you're identifying, all right, I have a problem that a person is having that can be solved by AI, and we have some data around it. And not all the time you need a lot of data. Sometimes you just need prompts and instructions. But that's when you start to experiment on, all right, what model is the best? What methodology? Should I do machine learning? Should I do generative AI? How do I apply AI to this? And the thought here is like there are so many different aspects that relate to AI, and there are so many different skills related to all these different aspects, right? You'll have to think about the use cases or the model. How much value will this drive versus how much does it cost to actually build this? What are the ethics and governance around this? What are the KPIs? How do we measure the success of this? What data is available? Is it scattered in spreadsheets? Do I have it in a database? These are the questions that people are asking today around AI. But I would say at the core, it's still very human-centric, where unless you have understand the person that you're solving a problem for, you'll have some trouble building successful AI. And a lot of times you'll be that AI hammer looking for a nail rather than, I understand there's a problem that a person's facing. There's an opportunity to transform it, and AI is the application of it. And we're going to do this responsibly through all these other considerations. Cool. All right. Yeah, feel free if there's any questions or thoughts that come up in the chat on this sort of framework of starting with the people. Yeah, feel free to let me know. But next I'll dive into some of the terminologies and then even deeper into skills, jobs, and then where to go from here. All right. Now I'll shift to just like there are two aspects of this that I think are helpful. I think it's skills and also just like foundational knowledge. And you'll hear me talk about that a little bit more as the rest of the session goes. As far as the foundational knowledge, there's a few key concepts and definitions that will be helpful as we go. So the first is around like, there are so many different types of AI that you'll see. But broadly today, I think they're broken up into a few different categories. But one is around machine learning, and on your own, like maybe like raise your hand or give a nod if you've heard of machine learning or you're familiar with it. But for those that are, or for those that aren't, machine learning is a little bit more of a traditional at this point form of AI, maybe not as much as you're used to as working back and forth with the ChatGPT or Gemini or any LLM that you're interacting with. But machine learning is a use case of AI where you have a ton of structured data. Maybe you're trying to predict someone's salary based on a data set that has all different aspects about like, age, years experience, education, gender, those types of things. You can build models like that to predict, the salary of a new person coming in with all of those attributes. There's also other methodologies like time series where you're forecasting the next iteration of something that hasn't happened yet. That's often used in financial projections. But these fall under the category of more, traditional machine learning algorithms. Within that, you have deep learning, which is a little bit more of a nuanced and higher compute form of machine learning that may not always be as explainable as some of the machine learning models. And they leverage these pieces of information called neural networks that really mimic the brain activity. And I think, from left to right, you get from like most granular to most, specific, where machine learning is a very broad category. And neural networks are a very in-depth type of machine learning that uses very high compute, and oftentimes not super explainable methodologies to get to predict an outcome, that you may want to. On the other hand, you'll have the broader category of generative AI. And generative AI is generally, predicting something new that hasn't really been seen before. And that could be new content in terms of text, images, voice, and videos. It's, usually trained on, large data sources from tens or thousands of different data sources, but it learns tons of patterns for input data to predict something that it hasn't seen before. And within that, there are two different types of, again, on the left is more broad. LLM is a type of foundation model, but foundation models are essentially models that are trained on, they're large, they're pre-trained. They're trained on tens and thousands of data sources, whether that be images or pictures or text or everything on the internet, to learn specific tasks. So you'll have a foundation model, maybe like DALL-E for, image generation, or you'll have a foundation model like an LLM that's able to be tied to language. On the right hand, LLM is a specific type of foundation model where that's trained on large corpuses of text data to predict, the next token in a sentence, but it's also to just interact with people in a more of a textual format. And you probably heard of LLMs. So actually right now, if you can, I would love for you to put in the chat, what are large language models that you've heard of? Like if you could just start naming them, which ones are you familiar with? And if there's any comments coming in, please let me know. And I guess bonus points if you can name IBM's large language model. If anybody can do that, you get bonus points. I'm not sure how to transfer to you at all, and I don't know what they represent, but you get major kudos.
So the first one that I see is Google Gamma.
Okay.
There's GPT, which
Yeah.
I think everyone knows.
Yeah.
I'm still monitoring the chat.
Okay. And I heard Google. I think Google's is actually is Gemini is their large language model. GPT is spot on. That's from OpenAI.
Claude
Yeah.
is another one.
Claude. Yep, that's Anthropic's Claude. And anybody know IBM's large language model?
We should give people enough time to Google.
Yeah,
The
that's
answer.
fair. That's fair. Or at least use a use a different large language model to like ChatGPT to ask what IBM's large language model is. I don't know, Kiki, if you wanna, not to put you on the spot, but if you want to jump in as well, otherwise I'll jump to the slide.
Yes. So IBM's is Granite.
Granite. Oh,
Yes. All right, thanks.
yeah.
For
I think
having me.
I got Watson as IBM's, which seems like you guys have moved on from Watson to Granite.
I don't know if moved on is the right terminology per se. So Watson X is a flagship product of IBM, and it's the brand of IBM. Within the Watson X catalog, you'll have a few different solutions. Like you'll have WatsonX.ai, which is a generative AI, foundation model platform that within it contains a lot of LLM, but it helps to manage your Gen AI solution. You'll have Watson X Orchestrate, which helps facilitate agentic workflows. And we'll talk about agents in a second as another key terminology. But Granite is the specific large language model that IBM has built. And it's contained within a lot of our products. There's also things like WatsonX.data that helps manage data structures and data lakes to help make your data enterprise ready, and WatsonX Governance that helps manage with assessing your model performance, monitoring drifts, mitigating hallucinations and making sure that it's up to enterprise standard. So to answer your question, it's that watsonx brand is still alive and well, but Granite is IBM's foundation model underneath the hood. And I will say different models will have different strengths, and they'll have different sizes. So some of those other models like Llama is Facebook's or Meta's, by the way. I don't know if we covered that one. You'll have maybe larger parameter models that do well in its own tasks, but sometimes a model like Granite is a smaller model that you could even like fine tune or apply to a very specific use case. And each one might have its advantages in terms of speed, performance, and costs. But this is one thing that people think about as you experiment with different models. I mentioned the terminology agent. So you may be familiar with assistants, where assistants typically like go back and forth with people in terms of answering questions. You think of phone assistants and operators that are now becoming more AI oriented. But agents are very much like assistants, and they're becoming a little bit more specialized to actually reason or understand what's the query that someone's asking, what's their reasoning behind it, and they're starting to be able to take actions based on people's behalf. So like a travel agent, say you're trying to book a trip somewhere, an LLM can engage with the user about their travel plans. It'll have access to your underlying data so you can understand your preferences and what you're really trying to do. And then it can make recommendations about flights, hotels, et cetera, and even take the action to book flights, hotels, and more, accordingly. To break down LLMs and agents a little bit more and just simplify it, large language models, like the ones that we had mentioned before, they typically have like a very good general knowledge of things. Like they're trained on hundreds of thousands of data sources, there are billions of parameters. And so they might have a foundational knowledge of like legal or sports or history. And these foundation models or large language models typically get enhanced with specialized data and instructions. So you can either apply data to it to make it more understanding of a specific subject, and you can give it instructions. And these are typically come in the form of prompts. And prompts are essentially you telling the LLM how to behave, right? You can say, hey, you're a legal expert, tell me how to understand this contract. Or, hey, you're a sports commentator, write all like the next, rewrite this famous book or the Bible in sports commentary language. So that's where LLMs and data become a little bit more specialized. And then you can apply that new specialized model on new information when it comes in. All right. Finally, want to talk about skills and how you can get started and how I think of it. So I guess this is a good one. We're in the YouTube channel or in the comments. Would love to talk for you to just put in like, what are some skills that you picked up either in service or, in your other work activities that have been transmissible or applicable to life or the workforce, right? Just like write skills that you've picked up with your experience, in the YouTube comments.
So I see people management.
Okay.
I also see leadership,
Okay.
resourcing.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Yeah. If they keep coming in, let me know. Those are great to start. What I'll posit here is that there are two elements that I think is going to lead to success in the future. One is the things that you're probably all here for today, which is the foundational literacy of what I call it, of AI. And that's where you're going to want to know some of the terms that I talked about, like what is an agent? What are LLMs? How do they operate? How do I build something responsibly? What are the ethics behind it? What are like the data platforms available? What's the infrastructure that we should use? How can we start thinking about quantum computing or generative AI or human AI interaction, continuous learning systems? Like all of these are foundational concepts that you're going to want to start picking up on. However, I would say that a lot of the skills that particularly with this group has picked up, I think of resilience, people management, talent development, leadership, communication, empathy. These are skills that are still going to be extremely important today and going forward for the application of AI. Because a lot of the knowledge that you'll find out down here is becoming a little bit more available and easier to pick up and learn. But you're always going to need to know how to apply an AI system to solve someone's problem, right? You could have the best performing AI or agent that ever has existed, but if you can't communicate the value of that to someone through communication skills, or if you can't lead a team to develop this or lead a system of agents to really understand what the problem at hand is and project management accordingly, you're not going to have the ability to build successful AI. So I think, it's often daunting to think about how, much you want to upskill or reskill. I would say there's a lot of ways to get this foundational knowledge, but I think this group in particular has a lot of these softer skills and already inherent from, your experiences that are going to become very, very important as time goes on, as to, apply this to AI systems and actually make AI useful. So think about how to continue to develop those skills, and you don't need to transform everything at one time. Take these best aspects about you and start to pick up on these concepts, I think, as a starting point. And that will lead you really, really well to having success today and going forward. The other element of this here on a related note is, jobs like this have been transforming over time, right? And this, I think, is just the next evolution of a skill development that we'll see. And there are different studies that will say like, oh, there'll probably be a net generation of like 90 million or 90 billion jobs over time. But like AI is going to create new jobs. It's going to replace, some current jobs, maybe, related to administrivia or some of the things that we talked about earlier. But essentially, there will be just a different types of roles that, are typically available today. Jobs will be created, jobs will be destroyed, jobs will evolve. But thinking about some of the jobs and skill of the future, you'll be thinking about more generative AI engineers, AI product managers, data scientists, renewable energy and thinking about the environment is going to be increasingly important. AI and machine learning knowledge, sustainability expertise, strategic thinking. And then the emerging technologies here are around generative AI, agentic architecture, quantum computing, robotics, and edge computing. But this is not meant to be more of a comprehensive list. This is more to just set the tone of, jobs have always sort of evolved over time, and technology has been a big catalyst of this. And we're sort of going through that today. And it's important to start thinking about what are the types of skills that may exist today that may transform tomorrow. What are the types of roles that might do that? And there's a ton of information and content out there. Some of it I have in backup slides. I just don't know if we'll have time to get to the specifics of them. But how do you make yourself ready for the jobs of yesterday, jobs of today, but more importantly, the jobs of the future, and focus on those skills paired with your, strengths that you're already good at to come up with, I'm ready for this next era of work or the future of work. And I have a very specific role in this. And then finally, just some tips to get started. One, and this is something that's been helpful to me. There's new stuff about AI coming out every day. And AI 6 months ago looks very different than AI today. And AI landscape today is going to be look different than 6 months from now. I'm certain of that. So it's important to keep up to date. I think what's been helpful for me is I have a few daily podcasts, follow people on LinkedIn, custom news feeds, blogs, and content. These are great places to start to just get a daily routine of I'm on the pulse of AI. You can even ask an LLM to say like, hey, give me my daily AI report today. Like, what do I need to know? The second is actually use AI to learn. Knowledge has never been more accessible, in my opinion, because you're able to ask an LLM all about quantum computing. And I think a long time ago, you had to go to like a library and get an encyclopedia. More recently, you just Google it. Now, not only can you have all the like a lot of the knowledge from that specific subject at your fingertip, but you could also ask follow-up questions. So it's almost like a tailored learning plan to fill in the blanks of the gaps that you have in your mind. There are also deep research modes and study modes that are available in here. And then build an experiment. I think one of the questions earlier was around like AI for coding, right? And that's one of the fields that's becoming more and more popular. And I know IBM has a few offerings around that. You'll see some on the, more consumer facing ones as well. But, coding and accessibility to build things is really easy, and not really easy, but it's really more accessible now. You still need like a little bit of foundational knowledge, but the term vibe coding is becoming more and more popular where you're instructing an LLM to write code for you. But I would say either build an experiment. I'm doing this myself, either through, trying to test out how to build an agent, either making content on LinkedIn because, the best way to learn is to teach. And even I'm going to start trying to do that. Start passion projects, start building frameworks, but the tools are out there. To really get your hands dirty with AI. And so I just wanted to provide a little bit of the frameworks here where I guess some of the main takeaways are, your soft skills and your experience to this point is super valuable and you're in a very unique position because of where you are. How can you pair that with the foundational literacy and knowledge of AI and start looking into LLMs, skills that you need to develop, agents, agentic workflows, architecture underneath it. Start picking up on those just so you have a foundational knowledge, and then also start building and experimenting. I think if you are building a resume, it's always really impressive, at least when I'm recruiting too, to see someone that's had the passion to say like, I'm going to test out and build something on my own. I always think that's a differentiator because it shows you have hands-on expertise. And then that you can use all those other skills like leadership and communication, to continue to build out successful AI, but you do need to be able to speak the language of AI, at least to an extent, if not, have your own experience with it. So I don't know how we're doing on time. I think this might have gone to 4:15. So I just wanted to check in here to see if there are any questions or if there's any more topics that we want to hone in on.
So Matthew, we are getting lots of likes and hearts and 100% signs on the chat with all the slides that you're sharing. So I think it's resonating very much with the audience here. And in terms of the questions, yes, like if you guys have any questions, please write it on YouTube and I'm going to share with Matthew here. One of the questions that I did have in mind in case we don't get some questions on YouTube in time.
Sure. Yeah, if you have it, I don't know if your audio just cut out.
Yes, I can go ahead. What's your take on AI replacing jobs in defense, logistics, intelligence sectors, and how can veterans stay ahead of that curve?
Okay. So I think you're probably thinking, I don't know if there's specific companies that come to mind. I know I have a few. I actually don't have a ton of expertise in that industry specifically. So I'll answer this question, maybe in a different way. I think a lot of companies are focusing on the same problem. So I'm going to reframe this into the question that I wish you'd ask me just because I don't have as much knowledge in that industry. A lot of companies are focusing on similar things when it comes to AI. And there are different types of roles in general that are probably more automatable than others. Jobs that are either like repetitive manual tasks that can be automated because we have the data around it. Like basic customer service, assistants are sort of replacing, human assistants where you might have less operators. basic manufacturing jobs if they can be applied by artificial intelligence. So in every industry, they're going to have its own flavor of that. And I'm sure that's going to happen in the defense intelligence flavor. And if I, asked AI after this, I could probably come back to you in 30 minutes with an answer of like, oh, okay, here's where they're specifically. But I would reframe that thought process into like, what are the types of roles in general that AI is going after? Not going after, but AI is typically replacing. And then what are the ones in that specific industry that I see that happening? And then flip it to like, where is the opportunity around that? How can I get ahead of that curve if I foresee this coming? What skills do I need to develop to do that? So that may not have been a specific answer to your specific question about the industry, but generally that's how I would apply that kind of way of thinking.
That's helpful. There is one question here, and I'm going to paraphrase that question. So there's a lot of hype around AI, but for veterans starting from zero, what's the most realistic on-ramp to becoming job ready in this space? So basically, how can I build agents like that? I think that's what people are thinking about, but what would your take be?
Great question. My first take that I'll highlight earlier is based on all your experience, you're not starting from zero. Because of all the soft skills, because of all the leadership skills that you likely have, your skills are valuable, and take those and sharpen them with a foundational knowledge of AI. That being said, that's probably not what you were looking for in the answer, so I'll actually answer the intent of your question as well. Yeah, starting from zero is scary. There's a whole world of AI out there, and there's so many different terms, and it's moving at a fast pace. I do think that, finding an everyday podcast that you like, dedicating 30 minutes in the morning on your way to work, or if you're not working on, whatever, free time that you might have. Leverage AI to learn. Like, you can have a daily reminder on your phone to prompt yourself to say, hey, what are the topics of AI that I should even think about? And then have an interaction with that. I even think like an hour a day or even less than that would get you to a good foundational knowledge of AI. So again, when I go look back at this slide here, all this stuff on the bottom is like, how do I speak the language of AI? How do I understand what's going on? How do I understand the areas that it's going to apply? But you're not starting from zero, because you'll still need all of these skills that a lot of you possess. I mean, there's still areas to sharpen these soft skills as well. But applying AI, even more than building AI in some cases, is going to be a very huge use case, because as people are mentioning with like code assistants and vibe coding, it's becoming easier or more accessible to build. And data and engineers and data scientists are going to be extremely valuable because they have the knowledge and they're going to be supercharged with these code assistant tools. But how do you apply that AI? How do you find the right use case? How do you understand there's a problem to be solved? And how do you communicate the value of that? Those are going to be really critical skills that I personally don't see going away. So you're not starting from zero. It's a daunting task. Just think about it as like, I need to start by speaking the language of AI, and then you can take those next steps into, okay, I want to build something with AI. I want to write a blog about that. There are different frameworks to think of there.
I think that is great. I also wanted to put in a plug for Skills Build, IBM Skills Build. I feel like there are a lot of people who are looking for initial support to get started on AI, and I think there are some great courses on AI on IBM Skills Build. So we would love for you to sign up. I think there are some guided learning courses as well that you can explore there. So we will do a separate session on IBM Skill Build and how we can get people started there. So stay tuned, and we'll send a email to this group afterwards in terms of next steps here. But Matthew, this was a great session. I learned a lot, and I would say that there's a lot, as you clearly said, the veterans community has a lot of great skills, and we can they are adaptive, they can learn really quickly, and I feel like all of those things along with learning on the AI side, can really help people stay ahead of times in this new future of work. So, Matthew, Emil, Kiki, thank you so much for joining us. Our next session is actually all going to be about translating skills from your field to non-veteran career, a civilian career, and how do we leverage LinkedIn and resumes. And then we'll be talking also about AI as part of that, to say leveraging AI to rebuild some of the things that you can talk and share in your as you transition. So thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. Thanks for everything you do, and always feel free to connect on LinkedIn or anything like that if you're interested.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Diksha.
Thank you. Take care. So guys, our next session is with Dr. Aliha Engel, and I think she's having some Zoom challenges, so I am trying to get her on the right link. We should be back shortly. We are trying to figure out the Zoom link issue. Hi, Dr. Aliha. Super excited to see you here, and apologize about the Zoom issue here. We were just chatting with the team from IBM, and they were talking about all the stuff around AI and what they can do. And I think the group is excited about listening from you about how to really move from a veteran career into a civilian life, and what that might entail, and how what they need to prepare for. I think resumes and LinkedIn are the first phase that people have outside of their military career. So thank you so much for taking time to talk to our audience, and the floor is all yours. You are on mute.
How about now?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your patience with my IT savviness. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so glad everyone is here to talk about from the battlefield to the boardroom. My name is Dr. Aliha Engel. You can call me Doc, Aliha, anything in between. It doesn't really matter to me, whatever makes you comfortable. I am a 21-year Air Force veteran and a work culture expert. I retired in 2021, smack dab in the middle of COVID at Maxwell Air Force Base. And you know what they had for us in 2021? Absolutely nothing. You're absolutely right. In 2021, after putting in over 20 years of service, they gave me my TD 214 and kicked me to the curb. And I had no idea what I was doing. So in 2021, I made it my mission to ensure that no other veterans go through the anxieties and the mistakes that I went through. So this lesson is all about don't be Aliha, do better. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So when I left the Air Force in 2021, I thought the hardest part was behind me. I had built hundreds of bombs, led thousands of airmen, managed multi-million-dollar operations, and I taught financial management to military members across the globe. But when I sat down to write my own first resume, I froze. I had no idea what I was doing. After over 20 years of being a high level performing executive leader, I had no idea how to write a resume. So how do you explain 21 years of experience in a way that makes sense to someone outside of the military? Think about it, folks. In healthcare, we can't even agree what's the difference between an EKG and EDG. So how can we possibly expect recruiters to understand what we mean when we say EXO, commander, and mission driven? They're not going to understand that, not unless they've been around us for a long time. So it's on us to translate this. It was the translation in the transition that I had not quite learned yet. And I wasn't alone. Every year, over 200,000 service members transition to civilian life. 200,000 of us. And within the first year, 44% of us will walk away from our first civilian job. And that's not because we can't do the work. We're work hogs. That's what we do. It's because something got lost in translation. We're not speaking the same language usually at that first job. So today we're going to talk about how to translate your excellence, how to turn your military achievements into a language that recruiters and hiring managers understand and value. You see, what the first challenge for me was language. The civilian world doesn't speak in acronyms or duty titles. When they see executed tactical operations or mission ready assessments, they have no idea what that means in business terms. Unless you can translate that to profit and loss, you're going to lose a lot of people along the way. So the second challenge is confidence. We're taught humility in the military to focus on the mission, not ourselves. It is never about us. We need to eat that humble pie because this is about all of us. But in the civilian world, if you don't tell the story in the most selling way, if you don't sell yourself like you're the best car on that lot, nobody else will see it. And finally, clarity. You might have been a logistics officer or a financial management technician, or maybe a logistics technician. In corporate terms, that could mean operations, it could mean supply chain, it could even mean project management. If we can't define what we do, employers cannot do it either. These barriers, language, confidence, and clarity create frustration, not just for us, but for recruiters too, because recruiters know the value in a veteran. They know that we are a high value candidate, but if they can't understand what we're trying to sell them, we're going to lose that friendship. We're going to lose that networking that we've just created. You know you're capable. I know you're capable, but you feel like you're shouting across a translation gap, and we have no idea how to put that bridge in place. That disconnect is what leads to that 44% turnover. Within 12 months of our first job, 44% of us get so frustrated that we just walk away, not from opportunity, but from that misunderstanding that we have no idea how to address. Now I'm going to keep it real, folks. My career path was not linear. I'm about the most non-linear qualified person you can think of. I started in ammunitions where I built bombs, collected bullets, and inspected missiles. Yes, I was a grunt for the first 5 years of my career. Then I went into financial management and I became so good at audit and fraud detection that I became an instructor. And I became I think I found where I belonged was instructing technical training. And then I moved on to role-playing missions and executive leadership. And I'm sure that a lot of your experience is very similar in the same way. None of us did one job our entire careers. Most of us had our functional expertise, but then we also had 27 different additional duties. And God forbid they need to pull from our career field to go fill another career field. We are expert multitaskers, folks. And it's all about selling that on paper. Because on paper, that looks like chaos to a civilian. Recruiters didn't know where to place me when I started my transition. Was I a leader, a teacher, a fraud analyst? They couldn't decide. And to be completely honest, I still can't decide sometimes. And that's okay. And that's when I learned to simplify these complex roles. I started using universal terminology, transferable skills that apply to all career fields, like project management and training design and team leadership. I stopped trying to make my career look neat and in a box because it just doesn't fit like that when you're a veteran. And it started showing how to make me valuable. And I want you to remember this, civilian employers don't hire titles, folks. They hire impact. They don't care what your title was. They want to know what you did when you were in that title. So instead of listing responsibilities, I want you to focus when you start your resume to list results. Ask yourself these questions. What changed because I was there? What improved? Who grew? That's the story they need to hear, not your title, not your acronyms, not your military schools. Take a moment and think, what's one accomplishment you're super proud of that might sound ordinary on paper? How could you reframe it in plain, impactful language without the military jargon, without the acronyms, to sell yourself as the best car on the lot? Remember, there are going to be hundreds of qualified candidates applying for the exact same role. It's on you to sell yourself. What makes you the car to buy amongst all the other cars on the lot? That's your mission when you're drafting that resume. Here's where we make translation practical. Let's look at this table. It's a simple shift in word, folks, but a massive shift of understanding. You could say led 150 airmen. Yeah, sure, that sounds great. Or if you put managed a 150-person cross-functional team, it's cross-functional. Now you're selling that you're a multitasker. You're probably involved with conflict management, project management. You're highlighting more than just your role. You're highlighting what you did in that role. Rather than saying oversaw readiness, you could say ensured compliance and operational excellence. Notice that what's missing. Notice the difference. We're not talking about jargon. We're talking about impact. You're not watering down your experience. You're decoding it. Think of it like switching uniforms. You are the same person. You are the same candidate, the same high performer. You're just wearing a little bit different fabric. And remember that numbers speak every language. The numbers are what's going to stick out more than anything else to these recruiters. Those of us that have written our own evals throughout our career, you remember every time you submitted it and they kicked it back saying, not measurable, not measurable. You need more numbers. Recruiters are no different. They want to know what makes you the most valuable option amongst all of the options. You could say improved efficiency or saved X number of dollars. That's the kind of language they're looking for. So I want you to remember this. Facts tell, but stories sell. Facts tell, but stories sell. In the military, we were trained not to brag. The mission came first. It wasn't about us, it was about everyone. But in the civilian world, your mission is your message. I'm going to tell you a story. I once worked with a veteran named Marcus. His resume said, survived security operations for survived. You saw that? I said survived. I meant to say supervised security operations for 300 personnel. So I asked him, that's great. You supervised 300 people. That's a big deal. But tell me this, what changed because you supervised those 300 personnel? What story can you tell about that particular bullet? And he told me that during his tenure, he had managed to reorganize shift schedules. He introduced new communication drills, and he had reduced incident response time. And because of that, that story I told him showed leadership, empathy, and teaching skills, things that every employer is looking for. So, yeah, you supervised 300 people, but you also led, showed empathy, and taught new skills. You mentored these members. So instead, we rewrote it to say developed and mentored a 300-person security team, improving emergency readiness metrics by 40% and streamlining response protocols. You notice the difference? We've got a little bit of some role information versus impact. We are telling that recruiter what we can do, how we can do it, and why we're the best person to do it in that role. Same job, entirely new impact. And when you share your story with heart and data, people don't just see your resume, they see your value. They start to see why you're the car on the lot that they should buy. Your resume is one piece of the puzzle, but you also have to build your brand with intent. And yes, you absolutely have a brand, even if you don't have a business. Everyone has a brand. So let's think about this for a minute. Everyone has a friend that is notoriously late to everything. Like it or not, that is their brand. When I retired in 2021, I knew that I wanted to be known as a work culture expert. So, in order to build that brand, I went back to school and started learning more about employee engagement and work and org development. I started conducting podcasts where I was a guest on a podcast probably once every quarter, talking about work culture and how to create psychologically safe environments because I wanted that to be my brand. And now today, when I engage with individuals and interact, I'm quite recognized now because I am the work culture girl. What do you want your brand to be? Everybody has a brand. Everybody has a brand. Think about cars. Toyota, what is Toyota known for? They last forever. They don't have the best tech, but they last forever, right? Ford has a brand. Cadillac has a brand. They're all known for something. What do you want to be known as? Your LinkedIn is your digital handshake, and LinkedIn is where you can build that brand. It introduces you before you even walk into a room. If you leverage and optimize LinkedIn, you can gain access to over 92% of recruiters because that's how many of them use LinkedIn. You are going to miss out on 92% of the recruiters out there if you are not using LinkedIn. So learning how to leverage your LinkedIn and building your brand on LinkedIn is going to help you stand out amongst all the other cars on the lot. Profiles with a professional photo get 21% more views. Just a good headshot. And the headshot doesn't have to be anything expensive. You can create a headshot with AI nowadays. As long as your headshot is about 50 to 60% of your head, you don't want anyone else in the picture because this is about you. You're selling you. Try not to have your uniform in a picture because you're trying to sell your civilian self now. We're no longer selling the military version of ourselves. We are selling the veteran side. Okay. And then finally, there is a skills section on your LinkedIn. If you add at least 5 skills to your LinkedIn, you are 33% more likely to be found by a recruiter. Just 5 skills and you will be found by 33% more recruiters. It takes 30 seconds to gain that much more access. It's all about making yourself stand out. And that clear headline, there's a headline right below your picture. This is the same headline that's on your resume. It can say something like operations leader, process improvement, team builder. What describes you? What terminology do you want to be your brand? And you're going to be the only one that will be able to answer that question. Okay. What do you want your brand to be? Your headline should tell people what you do or what you want to do, but not necessarily what you did. Unless you're trying to go back to an old role, as long as you're still trying to progress and grow, your headline needs to be what you want to do, not where you used to be, because we are growing and learning and becoming better versions of ourselves. And your about section. That's your story zone. Call this your elevator pitch, if you will. You know, when you enter an interview and the very first question they ask you is, tell me about yourself, and you already have that professional introduction ready. 30 to 60 seconds. Who are you and what makes you so special? Boom. That professional introduction, that elevator pitch that you've practiced over and over and over again, just pop that into your story. Everything on your LinkedIn page is searchable by recruiters. So leveraging the keywords in your headline and in your story, not your story, your about section will give you access to those recruiters that are searching for those specific keywords. So leveraging your LinkedIn is going to give you the most access to the recruiters on LinkedIn. Now, that being said, getting you access to the recruiter is only half the battle. Folks, if you get invited to the interview, the recruiter already knows that you're qualified. They are not trying to confirm that you are qualified in their interview. They are trying to confirm that they like you. They know you're qualified. Everyone invited to the interview is qualified. They're not trying to find out if you can do the job. They're trying to find out how you will do the job. What is your work ethic? Would you fit on the team? Is your personality the type of personality that would slide right onto this team well? Would you fit the culture? Those are the things that they're looking for in the interview. Okay. Let's talk about these interviews and your salary negotiations, because these are two places where most veterans lose a lot of ground when it comes to the job search. In your interviews, the secret sauce is using the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Every single question you are asked in an interview, you need to respond in a situation, task, action, result format. And this is for two reasons. One, a lot of times your interviews are now being scanned by AI, and AI is searching for the STAR method. They're looking for that STAR format. Okay. But also, two, recruiters just simply prefer this. The STAR method is what allows them to acquire the most information, the most valuable information that they need as quick as possible. It makes it so that they don't have to search to find out who you are as a person and as a candidate and as an employee. So providing that STAR, that situation, task, action, result format in your answer is going to give you the most valuable leverage amongst all of the other candidates in the interview process. So here's an example. When our base lost power during a training exercise situation, I coordinated backup operations, that's your task, led a 10-person team to restore systems, the action, and we were operational again in under 45 minutes. Results. You notice there are numbers wherever we can place them, because recruiters and AI love measurable numbers. That's a leadership story wrapped in 4 sentences. You answered the question, you did it in 4 sentences. It's not a long, drawn-out response, and it gives the recruiter exactly what they're looking for without burning a lot of time. Now, salary negotiations, this one hit me personally, because when the recruiters bring it up, Aaliyah made the mistake for a long time. The number one rule when you are asked, what are your salary expectations? You are never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, going to say the number first. You are going to say, I would like my fair market value. If they ask again, you have to stand strong, because they probably will ask again. You will not say the number first. Well, can you give me the range? Do you have the budget? You can ask questions to get them to drop the number first. But if you drop the number first, you can really hurt yourself in the negotiations. And here's why. Unless the salary is given to you up front in the job interview, and it's not very common, but it does happen. Unless that happens, 100% of the time, your offer is going to be a lowball. The first offer is going to be a lowball 100% of the time because they want you, but they want you as cheap as they can get you. So ultimately, if you are not negotiating, you are going to leave over $1 million on the table throughout your lifetime if you don't negotiate. Negotiations are incredibly important, and you have to stand tall. In my first civilian role, I did not know this. I did not negotiate. I thought asking would have made me seem ungrateful. Later, I learned that I had actually started 15% lower than what they had intended on starting me at because I didn't realize they were expecting me to negotiate. That's the cost of silence. And you can say, I'd like my fair market value. Can you share the budget? Can you share the range? But ultimately, every once in a while, you might be pushed to say the number first. And it's if you absolutely have to, prepare yourself. You can determine what your fair market value is at salary.com. Salary.com is going to give you the most effective and up-to-date numbers based on the two most important things that impact your salary, and that is your KSAs, your knowledge, skills, and abilities, the qualifications that are written on your resume, combined with your cost of living. Where do you live? So $80,000 in San Antonio is going to be a lot different from $80,000 in DC, would it not? 80,000 in DC, you're going to be sleeping in your car. Let's just be honest, right? So understanding what you're walking into, standing strong, and try to advocate for yourself as much as you can because nobody else is going to do it. And finally, I do want to cover a few tips for that applicant tracking system. Once you are going through the ATS, that applicant tracking system, the ATS is an AI system that is going to scan your resume. And there are several things in your resume, if you aren't careful, that can trip up the ATS and your resume will never make it to the recruiter. And I cannot foot stomp this enough, folks. You can be the most qualified person for the job, but if you do not know how to work with the ATS, the recruiter is never going to see your resume. It's never going to happen. So here are a few tips. Remove all lines. And what I mean by lines is don't underline any of your fonts. Don't use any lines as page breaks or section separators. Don't use lines in your hyperlinks because you're not going to have hyperlinks. Also remove your hyperlinks. Hyperlinks tend to trip up the ATS as well. So your emails, your LinkedIn, URL, all of those things. No hyperlinks and no lines, okay? You're going to want to remove everything from your headers and your footers. I know a lot of people had some savvy tricks to get past the ATS when it first started becoming a regular thing in the hiring process. But please, please, please hear me. Do not try to use the tricks. The ATSs out there that are regularly used by competing organizations and companies, they are very well aware of these tricks. And if you use these tricks, a lot of times you will automatically end up rejected just because they don't want to deal with a candidate that didn't do it the right way. So try not to put anything at all in your headers or footers. It can be an automatic dismissal with some of these ATSs. Never allow more than 2 lines of spacing. So hit that space, and never do more than 2 lines. When I see 3 lines of spaces or more, what I have seen is that the ATS thinks that's the end of the page and it stops reading. So do not do anything more than 2 lines of spacing. Avoid significantly varying font sizes, types, and colors. Of course, you can use some shifting sizes and a couple different types, but don't use a whole lot of different colors. That upsets the ATS, and the font size and types can confuse them as well. If you use significantly varying different sizes and font types, I have seen the ATS completely read over that section and could not pick it up at all because it wasn't the same font as the rest of the document. Tables, columns, and text boxes are a hard pass. They confuse the ATS. Along with images, graphics, logos, those just don't make the applicant tracking systems very happy at all. Microsoft Word is by far the preferred format for ATS. Every once in a blue moon, you will see the job description request a PDF. If it's requesting a PDF, there's a good chance that those resumes are not being scanned by ATS. No guarantee. But there's a good chance that those are all being manually read by a recruiter. And then finally, use plain round bullets only. Try to avoid using any fun graphics for your bullets because the ATS doesn't like it. And believe me, I understand. If I would put glitter and sequins on my resume if I could, but that's just not where we are in the ATS right now. So let's look out or zoom out and let's look at this at the big picture. Hiring veterans isn't just patriotic, folks. It is profitable. According to SHRM, companies with veteran hiring programs see 68% higher retention rates when that translation in transition is successful. That's huge. Veterans bring leadership under significant pressure. We bring discipline and resilience. We bring problem-solving instincts because we were told for an X number of years, don't ever bring a problem to me without a solution. So let me tell you, we are expert problem solvers. In other words, veterans don't just fill roles, they build high-performing, loyal, adaptable teams. So when you translate your story clearly, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping employers see the talent that they've been missing. You're helping them understand why you are the car on the lot to buy amongst all the others. This is where we all bring it together, folks. You have the tools, the translation, the storytelling, the branding, the interviewing. Now's the application. The goal isn't to fit it in, it's to stand out authentically, strategically, and confidently. If there's one takeaway today, let it be this. Your service gave you skills that can't be taught in any classroom: adaptability, courage, and heart and leadership. Those are universal currencies in the workplace. So write your story, share your story, and let the world see the leader behind the label. Your uniform may change, but your mission doesn't. You've served your country, and now it's time to serve your own potential. Translate your story and tell it with confidence in that STAR format that I know you're confident and capable of doing. And remember, keep leading with authenticity, accountability, and empathy because the future of work depends on it. And I thank you.
Dr. Aliha, thank you so much. This was very impactful, and I had a lot of takeaways from this as well in terms of what to do differently with your LinkedIn as well as with your resumes, and amazing information here. This would also be available to people afterwards on the YouTube channel. So we are going to share some links with everyone who could not have attended this session. I did have a question.
Yes.
So what is the biggest myth that you've seen veterans believe about civilian job searching that holds them back?
Most veterans think they can skip the targeting of their resume. They think that if they draft a master resume with the most impactful keywords, that they will never have to target their resume. And that's unfortunately just not true because the experience that we bring to the table will never fit on more than on 2 pages or less. It just won't. So you're really kind of shorting yourself out if you're not targeting your resumes.
That's I think that's super powerful. And I know sometimes when you start leveraging AI for resume targeting, it makes up stuff. It just it isn't right. And I feel like it definitely needs the right time and effort to really customize your resume for each job.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Thank you so much for your time. I had a lot of takeaways. I'm sure the audience did as well. And thank you so much for your service as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope to connect with everyone.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for joining us today. We are at the top of hour right now. I know we've had some technological challenges in terms of the networking platform that we were supposed to use. We hope you've enjoyed the talks that we had, the workshops that we had today, and we will definitely be sharing the recaps of these workshops. At the same time, we would be doing more of these events and trying to get you more employers and service providers who can connect with you and help you achieve your potential. So have a good evening and thank you. Take care.